Absolute Batman is the highest selling comic book of the year. Hey Internet, I'm Chris, and this is the place on the internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. So, issue 2 of Absolute Batman just recently came out. I reviewed it on the channel, and it continued the momentum of issue 1, which we now know is the highest selling comic book of the year. Now, that is just including Western comic books, single issues, that doesn't include graphic novels, trades, YA, manga, whatever you want to include in comics, which they all are. But if we're talking about single issue comics, Absolute Batman #1 is #1. It has sold over 400,000 copies. I think it's on its fourth printing. The second issue is going to a second printing right now. And then there's also a Noir edition, and Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Superman have followed up on that success with also selling out of their first printings and being great first issues, and have gotten a lot of people excited about this new era of DC All In. This is exciting news. I think anytime you have a huge success like this, and we've talked about this on the channel, is that I think there is a bit of a, not to use this, but a trickle down effect when it comes to the success of books like this, and it brings a lot of interest. And, I think one big failure of the golden era of movies is that they weren't too many comic books like an Absolute Batman to bring that excitement that the comic book movies were making to comic books. There were moments like the New 52, but when the New 52 came out, to be quite honest, what was that, 2011? So I think the closest DC movie was The Dark Knight Rises, which, was great, but, that was the end of that trilogy. We didn't get Man of Steel till 2013. So there just wasn't, there was a bit of a disconnect with that. And then also when it comes to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I can't think of the last big Marvel event while the Marvel Cinematic Universe was firing on all cylinders. Even if you think about it, like Age of Ultron, which took its name from a comic book event, I couldn't tell you what that event was about. And I don't think anyone really liked it because no one could really tell you what that event was about. And it's clear that they didn't adapt that event when using that name. It just was an awesome name, so they took it. So yeah, going back to Absolute Batman, it is just great to see this level of success. And I think there's something to be said about it being the #1 comic book. I know a lot of people like to be like, but manga, but Dogman. But the reality is, kids being into those things just tell you that they're into sequential storytelling. They like comic books. They just need something to be excited about. When it comes to single issue comics, they're just hard to get to. So the fact that Absolute Batman sold 400,000 copies in this market where your only measure of success is comic book shops, where digital reporting is a little wonky. The only real place you can buy these things is from Amazon, which honestly used to be cool when it was just Comixology, but now it's a weird thing. Now you have to use the Kindle app. Even me, who still uses that platform, it's kind of like there's got to be a better way. Global Comics is a great resource. DC Infinite, I've been since day one, since they launched the ultra tier, I've been on that. But there's nothing like the Shonen app, or it's not as easy to get. Like, you can't get Absolute Batman #1 at Target like you can a Dogman or a lot of manga chapters. They've done a better job at featuring some cool graphic novels and exclusive covers for that, but there's still a long way to go. So Absolute Batman success is a success, no matter how you measure it, even if you throw in those things like manga and Dogman. And again, it just shows that there's an enthusiasm around this character, and it's sad that someone like Comicstorian is not around anymore to tell that story, because I think he would have definitely done what he did with the Injustice series and get really people into it. And, like I said, even on this channel, like, I've talked a lot about the Absolute Universe and Absolute Batman, and it is clear people are excited about it. Like, it's one of the few things you could talk about on the internet these days. I mean, before it came out, there still was like some weird divisiveness around it, but you could talk about it and most people are excited. Like, there's weird corners of the internet that get weird about it, but for the most part, I think people are on the same page. It's a great book. Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta have created an amazing world of Gotham that we could all really dive into. And shout out to Scott Snyder for really putting himself out there. Like, he's been doing interviews, he's been sharing things, doing signings, all these things he really doesn't have to do. He could just slap his name on it and be like, all right, like, it's another Batman book. But he's really sort of put his himself behind it, his name, and then also brought some really great creatives to build out the rest of the Absolute universe. So I think he's definitely learned the lessons from the New 52, where he was a much younger writer, had less pull. The Court of Owls was just coming out. So the fact he's used that leverage and also that knowledge and experience to do it better really speaks to the kind of person he is and the creative he is. So Absolute Batman, I think, is going to continue to be a success. We know it's going to be an ongoing series. Scott Snyder and Nick Jagoda are signed up for at least 2 years. And it's hard to believe that a Batman book with Scott Snyder on it will fall off sales-wise enough for DC to be like, let's stop selling this. But it is possible, so still buy the book if you really love the characters and what they're doing. And I think, again, it's a great sign that the industry is turning around. It's great to go to the shop and see younger people there talking about DC All In, all those things. In Marvel, they have the Ultimate Universe. Outside of that, I can only think of like one or two series that I'm really into. But with DC, I'm loving Green Arrow. Question All Along just came out. So there's a lot of cool like miniseries popping out of All In. And this new Status Quo is fantastic. This week coming up, you got Justice League Unlimited. So there's just so much to be excited about. And then there's indie books. There's Ghost Machine, there's the Energon universe, and then also some really cool creator-owned stuff. So I'm really excited for what this means for the comic book industry, what this means for DC, what this means for the comic shop. So yeah, let me know what you think. Are you surprised by the success of Absolute Batman #1? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, and peace.